Wednesday, I think, May 21st, 2025. Yeah, it's Wednesday. And I changed the intro song, but just for today, maybe, I've got some explaining to do about it. That song is called Bongo, Bongo, Bongo. And yesterday, we're gonna go through it, but this whole thing, the other news guy who's singing Bingo, Bango, Bongo obviously listens to 1940s swing music. Anyway, WHO fallout agreement. We have to talk about that. And the fallout of the WHO agreement is quite expansive, really. And it's not just about health. Did you ever really think that it was just about your health, right? No, obviously not. Communication in songs, that's what we're going to be talking about with the Bingo, Bango, Bongo song. Recount due to tossed ballots. 500 ballots were tossed out in I can't remember his name, but he was a liberal and he lost the seat by 77, and no recount is triggered automatically with that tight of a loss. But if it was 7 votes less, then it would have automatically triggered. But a judge triggered a recount because he requested. And that's interesting to me because the Liberals are still trying to count their way to a majority. And it seems like we're going to let them. So that's not great. Scary improvements in AI. I've got video where the AI can now do audio of characters. You can have audio talking to each other, 2 characters talking to each other, background audio as well, all sorts of crazy stuff. And at this point, I think we should mothball it. And we should probably mothball Photoshop as well. Holy cow, we should get back to real life, not the fake reality we are creating around ourselves with AI and Photoshop. Parole has been denied for Chris and Tony of the Coutts 4, and realistically, it's a political reason. There's no reason to keep them in jail other than the courts want to punish them, and I think it's more evidence that goes to our institutions are completely corrupted, and they don't work for us anymore. They work for shady deep state, something else other than us, and so that is very frustrating because I wish they worked for us. They should work for us, right? That's the whole point. We built them, we pay for them, we fund them, and all of a sudden we're enemy number one? Now, I think we should rein these people in, fire them, and make sure the institutions understand that they exist to serve us and for no other reason only. Period. And they don't understand that at this point. What else? Do you want to pay for Ukraine's pension system? Champagne is saying, oh yeah, Canada's going to start paying for the Ukraine's pension system over the next decade. It's going to cost us $500 billion. Crazy town, right? We don't have enough money for healthcare. We don't have enough money for housing, but we've got $500 billion for Ukrainian pensions. So, no, I don't think so. And Trump is wanting to put together a golden dome for North America, and I am skeptical as all get out. Right now, we have NORAD. I said we've never had a missile attack in Canada. We've never had any, or in North America, indeed. It's never happened. No, not in South America either, as far as I'm aware. And NORAD is in place and credited with the lack of attacks, but I think that it's just people aren't firing rockets at us because of geography and because of the way politics works, right? Like at the current climate, we're not firing rockets into the United States, right? And indeed, Europe doesn't seem to be firing rockets at each other either. That's reserved for certain places in the Middle East, right? So it seems really strange to be making a push for the Golden Dome. And Trump talks about Canada. Trump talks about all of this. I think it's a dumpster fire of waste. I don't think there's a reason for it. I think that it is. I don't know what the head fake is here. And I don't think that I think that Trump's being honest. I think that Trump thinks it's necessary. Trump wants to do this and he's moving forward. I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't think that there's any justification for it. And I think it's wasteful. And so we're going to look at that. I'm not a fan of it, but who knows? I mean, maybe I don't have all the information that the president of the United States has. At the same time, I think this whole idea of if you're going to do a golden dome and all the rest of it, maybe read us in on the threats, right? Because as far as I can see, it's just wasteful. Anyway, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to do the Bingo, Bango, Bongo. Yesterday, during my show, I hadn't seen this. And I honestly, somebody in the comments said, yeah, you started saying this because this guy said this. And I was like, who's this? First of all, who's this guy? I have no idea who this guy is. I couldn't name him. I looked up to try and find the date of this report because I wanted to know if I was influenced by this at all. And I don't think so. Somebody in the Canada Poly chat, SD Robot, said, no, this is what influenced you. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah, this actually is what influenced me. And the more I listened to this song, this is a song that from the 1940s called Civilization, Bongo, Bongo, Bongo. Okay. And I was like, oh my gosh. But my mom, I sent this to my mom. I said, have you heard this song before? She said, oh, I love the Andrews Sisters. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom. This is my catchphrase. This is a catchphrase of mine that I use now. That's wild, right? So, but I don't think that this guy I don't think that this guy actually listens to the swing music, okay? But the whole purpose of this song is targeted towards people in the Congo, right? People who are not civilized, people from the third world, people from not England, okay? People from not the West. And the whole point is, come to civilization, you people from the Congo. And the hook is bongo, bongo, bongo. I don't want to leave the jungle. I won't go. Whoa. And I'll play it for you in a minute. But they were using music to foreshadow what's coming. And I've got another song for you as well. And that song's called Hugging and Chalking. Okay. And it's about fat girls, big boned girls, right? I'm not needing to be mean. I'm just saying they were creating a situation. I had intended to play it at the end, and so I can't find it now. But the song is called Hugging and Chalking. Hold on, I'll play this for you, and then we're going to go back to signaling about the immigration thing. I just want you to understand, in the 1940s, they were, laying the groundwork for people overeating, people being fat? Do you think so? Listen to this, here.
I got a gal who's mighty sweet, big blue eyes and tiny feet. Her name is Rosabelle McGee, and she tips the scales at 3030G. But ain't it grand to have a gal so big and fat that when you go to hug her, you don't know where you're at. You have to take a piece of chalk in your hand and hug a ways and chalk a mark to see where you began. One day I was a hugging and a chalking and a chalking and a hugging away.
So imagine in the 90s, you're driving down the road in your aqua-colored Chevy Astro van, and your British mother singing this at the top of her lungs by your high school to go to the grocery store. It's amazing, right? Right, hugging and chalking. And in case you don't know, chalking was used in cave exploration, right? You chalk your way through the cave so you could find your way back at the end. It's terrible. Let's listen to Bongo, 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 because they're trying to convince a native person to leave the jungle and come to civilization. But he says, no, I don't want to, because you guys in civilization, you go to work and drive cars and do all crazy stuff. And then you go on vacation and you swim and you fish. And that's all I do all day anyway. Like, why would I want to leave the jungle for your civilization? So they're trying to solve problems very publicly. And this is communication through this medium, through song medium. And this has continued from the 1940s to today. And it's only gotten more insidious. Here's Bongo, Bongo, Bongo.
Each morning a missionary advertised with neon sign. He tells the native population that civilization is fine.
Civilization is fine.
And 3 educated savages holler from a bamboo tree that civilization is a thing for me to see.
So bongo, 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 I don't wanna leave the Congo, oh, no, 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 no. Bingo, bango, bongo, I'm so happy in the jungle, I refuse to go. Don't want no bright lights, false teeth, doorbells, landlords, I make it clear
that no matter how they coax him,
I'll stay right here.
Okay, it goes through, and at the end, it targets Germany. They talk about how civilization has the Autobahn, right? Here it is. And I think that it's very clear. They're saying, we want to move people from the Congo, from the jungle, to Germany. Here.
Bingo, bango, bongo, I'm so happy in the jungle, I refuse to go.
Don't want no jailhouse,
Shotgun,
fish hooks,
golf club,
I got my spears.
so no matter how they coax him,
I'll stay right here.
Oh, I hope I didn't miss it. I think
they have things like the atom bomb.
So I think I'll stay where I am.
Civilization, I'll stay right here.
There you go. So yesterday I was watching the show, and this guy said,
we're not interested. I mean, it's not what the bill is about.
I mean, I hear you saying you're not interested, but there literally was an exclusion that was put in the original iteration of that bill, the thing that was reviewed, and then it got to committee, and bingo, bango, bongo, the exclusion is gone. So why was it important to put it there?
No. So obviously he listens to the Andrews Sisters. Here is John, and this I've got my bingo, bango, bongo mug because I put this up on the website in 2022. So if you know the date of this thing being being broadcast, please let me know. But John's talking about the invasion of the Western world. And he says, all over the Western world right now, establishment politicians have started adopting the rhetoric of immigration restriction. They talk big, but in practice, their policies amount to, at best, to very slight reductions in what is already a historically unprecedented wave of human migration, with maybe a tiny number of deportations thrown in for the cameras. It's all a trick, and a transparent one at that. They have no real intention of stopping the program of white replacement. They've just realized that the excoriating the peoples they rule over for being racist is falling on deaf ears, so they've switched up the rhetoric. We agree, immigration is too high. We're on your side. We'll stop it, while hoping you don't notice their actual policies or if they ever bother implementing whatever lackluster reductions they promise. Britain's Tories pulled this venal grift for 14 years, by the way, promising to stop migration while shoveling biomass into the country as fast as the airlines and boats could transport it. And now Starmer's trying to pull the same trick. Look, we don't have 14 years to futz around with these traitorous swine. Their deceptive little shell games are a luxury we can't afford to indulge. And he's responding to Dries van Langhorn. And he says, since the start of the strictest asylum policy ever in the Netherlands 1 year ago, a surplus of 130,000 new immigrants came into the country. Same thing's happening here. Same thing was going to happen with Polyev or Starmer. Carney, same thing. And so it's one of those things that when I listened, and my jaw hit the floor, honestly, because I sat at my computer writing down clean catchphrases, and I remember writing Bingo, Bango, Bongo down and kind of chuckling to myself saying, that's a winner. So I wasn't watching anybody else to do that, but this came out of nowhere and made me howl yesterday, absolutely howl. So I appreciate that. And I really, really, truly believe that they are using music and entertainment, Al Jolson, all of those things, all of them, to influence us in a way that we can't see because we think we're just singing a song. And it's so insidious, and it's so weird to see it because other people really don't see it. Anyway, let's talk about housing very briefly. We got to talk about, actually, we should probably talk about Ukraine. Well, we'll talk about housing quickly. Table Salt says new mortgage rates at 7% and stress test at 9%. Canadian earning $100,000 with no debt would no longer qualify for a $350,000 mortgage. The average home price in Canada is $650,000. So if you have two people who make $100,000 and hold no debt whatsoever, they still wouldn't qualify for, the average house price in Canada. And I think that's probably light. It's like it was $850,000 2 years ago. I can't imagine it falling $200,000. Has it fallen $200,000 in that time? I don't think so. So table salt is, I'm skeptical. And people are getting squeezed. And what happens? Higher density. You move in with your parents. You never get your own house. You assume your parents' mortgage or something to that effect, right? Higher density. You have 4 people living in the house. And then if you have kids, which you probably maybe won't, right? Statistically, maybe won't. Then the other people can come in. You maybe convert your house into, like, you live with your parents in the upper and you convert the lower into an apartment to make some money. And now super high density, right? Now you've got 2 households in one, all because of economic pressure, all because of policies that were laid out to do this and to lower our quality of living. And that's our standard of living. And that's what that does, right? When you have to live with your parents and rent out the basement, that's a lower standard of living than your parents had, because my parents, who weren't rich, didn't have to do that, and they had their own house, right? So that's concerning. It's not the right direction. People don't like it. And I mean, I don't like it. And it doesn't seem like our politicians are doing anything other than laundering our money through Ukraine for the next 10 years on the back of a promise of pensions for Ukraine. I promise you, I'm going to show you the video in 10 seconds. Magic Beans says, bye-bye, equity. So long, equity. If you want the Canadian housing market to become more affordable for buyers, it naturally follows that sellers will have to accept lower prices, which for existing homeowners means that the value of their properties must decline. This is an obvious point that is well understood throughout the political spectrum. Magic Beans is responding to Adam Zivo. Adam says, Canada's new housing minister says the prices of existing homes shouldn't go down and that affordable housing should be provided through massive government subsidies instead. So we're going to subsidize Ukraine and we're going to subsidize Canadian housing. His position is economically illiterate and concerning. Yes. And what else is concerning? Here is our finance minister, and he's talking about, at 2 minutes, 30 seconds, a pension system for Ukraine. So we're going to listen to the first minute just to let him lay the groundwork of what's been going on. And then I'm going to fast forward to 2 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that, so we can get the context and hear him talk about the pension system that he wants for Ukraine. And I think that that's egregious. I think that's treasonous. I think that if we're having pension systems for foreign countries, why are we paying taxes at all, right? Go tax their countries if they want a pension system. Like, it's not our responsibility, and our government shouldn't be making it our responsibility. This is treason. Here we go.
Bonjour tout le monde, c'est un grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici aujourd'hui pour première rencontre du G7. So good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be with all of you. Welcome to Canada for those who travel from afar. This is going to be our very first press conference, and I have the privilege and the honor to be with Sergei Marchenko, my dear colleague from Ukraine. We had the chance to meet earlier today, and I think it is very telling to the world that we have our Ukrainian friend with us for the G7 summit. You know, it sends a strong message to the world that we are, all of us, recommitting to support Ukraine. We're going to hold Russia to account. And we're also going to talk about what we're going to be doing.
With what army? We're going to hold Russia to account? Hello, Mr. Putin. We'd really like to talk to you about our concerning behavior we've noticed. What? Bullshit. We have absolutely no sway in Russia at all. Hold Russia to account? Putin would just swat us like an annoying fly, honestly.
In terms of reconstruction, you know, the discussion we had at the international level, there's a moral imperative for all of us to support our Ukrainian friend in reconstruction. They fought for democracy, not only for them, but for the...
There's not a moral imperative, and they didn't fight for democracy for us or for anybody else. It's nonsense, and I am insulted that he thinks that I know so little that he can get away with these egregious lies. What a traitor. Honestly, I can't think of a better word. Is there a better word? Communist, maybe? But it's ridiculous, and I have absolutely... This government is illegitimate. The election was stolen, period. And I wish that we had somebody in the political spectrum who is brave enough to talk about it and talk about it in a way that's fulsome. And I mean, it's not like the recounts to 5 or 6 flipped liberal seats are normal, right? But nobody's even talking about that. Nobody seems to care. Anyway, here's the Ukrainian pensions that we have some kind of moral imperative to pay to the tune of $500 billion over the next 10 years. Here we go.
We talk also how we could work together eventually to share best practices in building a pension system in Ukraine. And so therefore, we're going to continue that. You know, there's another big meeting coming in Rome in July, and we're going to be hosting a dinner, myself and the finance minister, with a number of colleagues from around the world, investors, business people, people who are going to be making sure that we build a bridge that we need between the private sector, the public sector, the international financial organization. So with that, I'll leave.
He says the 500 billion number earlier in the thing. Maybe it was around the 2-minute mark. So apologies that I don't have that. But 500 billion over the next 10 years is the approximate number that he put on it during the presser. So I feel no obligation. What they're potentially trying to say is similar to the weapons building in Ukraine that is actually, they give all this money to Ukraine and then Ukraine gives it all back to the weapons manufacturers, and it's basically like a quasi job program for the United States because Ukraine's buying these weapons. Sure, the United States government is giving them the money to buy the weapons, but then that necessitates the need to make the weapons, right? But I don't get that feeling here. I get the feeling that we're just on the hook for a whole lot of money, and we're not going to see any benefit other than raised taxes and house prices that are out of reach, et cetera, because of the rest of the bad policies that the government is pushing forward. So I don't know. Best practices, pensions, $500 billion. Nah, it's not for me, especially when we don't even get a budget, right? How much does that $500 billion represent of our GDP over that 10 years, right? So, but we're never going to know. And if they can get away with no budget now, what's going to bring them in line to deliver a budget in the fall or next spring or ever again, right? And it seems like they're governing without the House of Commons, without the parliamentary system that we are supposed to be under. And so if they don't come back to do that, how do we force them, right? I don't know. Here's Mel Joly talking about budgets with Rosemary Barton. Rosemary Barton's laying it out. And Mel Joly says a whole bunch of word salad. She says something like, we're the most economic government, and then just kind of lets the sentence die and then starts on another thing. But it doesn't make any rational sense. It's only a minute long, but it feels a lot longer. Here we go.
And on the budget, the government is not tabling a budget this spring. I know that's not your job, but there is a view by Pierre Poilievre and others that this does send a signal to investors. You're not laying out what the plan is right now. The most that the Minister Champagne has said is there'll be a fiscal update in the fall. How do you justify this? I mean, I know that there's not a lot of time, but surely there is an opportunity to tell Canadians what the state of Canada's finances are.
I think we need to make sure that Canadians understand what is, what's the state of the economy. I think there can be different formats to do that. Of course, this is a decision by the Minister of Finance, and I'll let him do his job. But I'm convinced that we can find ways to do that.
But you don't think a budget is needed right now?
Well, I think a budget takes a long time to do.
Yeah.
But I think also it's important that we are able to inform Canadians. We are the most economic government in years, and it's a question for us to make sure that not only do we deliver results in terms of the economy, but we're able to inform Canadians and investors.
Okay, Minister Joly, thanks for being
Pleasure.
here. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
being here.
Thank you.
I don't know. A pleasure to inform investors and blah, 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 blah. It's very, very weak. And I don't think that our government is just not doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? I don't know. It's disappointing daily. Tamara Litch is wondering why they're not going to bring in a budget. And she says, I can't imagine why the Canadian government doesn't want to table a budget. Whatever could it be? Oh, right. And here's the report published March 20th, 2024 that says secret RCMP report warns Canadians may revolt once they realize how broke they are. The government spent what? On what? And then we go and replace the government. And it's one of those things where at this point, I think it's a necessity. At this point, we don't have any assurances that the government in the federal position isn't completely compromised by China. And so that's a problem. And if I had my druthers, if I was, wave a magic wand, the premier, I would stop sending all tax dollars to the federal government right now. Absolutely, day one. We'd hold it all in the province. We would not remit, and we would force the federal government to prove they're not Chinese puppets. And again, it doesn't seem like anybody cares. And I can't imagine that it's not a concern, but it seems like nobody cares. All the people in power, nobody cares. Everybody's doing ditty parties and, congratulations on your movement here and blah, blah, blah. The UN this, Ukraine that, Israel this, Gaza that. It's all distractions, and we're getting screwed. Here's the mad sloth, and this person's talking about how to continue to grift us without us getting unruly about it. And I think that, yeah, right? You hold press conferences, you shadow box, you pretend, you lie, and when things get really, really bad, you claim victory. Here we go.
3 ways for Liberals to increase inflation in Canada and still call it a success story. So let's start one with, okay, we're going to make life more affordable because who doesn't love a plot twist? Number 2 would be to increase interest rates enough to confuse economists, but not enough to scare bankers. And then we'll throw in some fancy words like transitory and stability just to keep it looking believable. Number 3, when everything starts to skyrocket, like Canadian geese and migration, housing, food, all the things we need, then you hold a press conference and then you congratulate yourself for stimulating the economy and bonus points if you smile while saying it. 3 ways for Liberals to increase.
Yep. And they do smile while saying it. We're supporting people. And again, you can be convinced if you're sitting as a congressman or in the Canadian government and somebody says, we're going to give all this money to Ukraine, but really it's a roundabout way to get monies spent in Canada. And that, drives our economy and things like that. But again, I think that only applies to the US. But you could be told that lie or another lie and then get behind what's going on, right? So I don't know what the specific lie being told to Canadian leadership is. Maybe they're just all completely corrupt. I don't know. Western Standard says Chrystia Freeland under scrutiny for Crown Bank chair's alleged involvement in leadership campaign. The leadership campaign was as rigged as our elections are rigged. Carney, they stole Ruby Dalla's money. There's a whole bunch of interesting connections with Arya Chandra's and his son. And so the whole Liberal leadership election is very, very stinky, only to be outdone by the actual election that followed. Very stinky, right? The BC election, the leadership election, the actual general election, terrible. All of it's terrible. And I mean, they're going to throw Freeland under the bus? Maybe. Who cares? I mean, like, sorry, I just don't care. Here is 401 de Sparnich and Sarpunch. It says some demands from QP. So again, these organizations are getting kind of uppity. QP, unions, all of these people are demanding all of these things. Do they not understand that Canada Post is broke? Like, Canada Post is operationally floundering. They have to get injections of money from the federal government in order to stay liquid and still running. At this point, it doesn't seem like Canada Post is long for this world, or it might go to privatization. Maybe the Polyevs will buy it. But here's what the union's demanding. You walk in, you privatize, and you fire everybody. Fire them all, and then hire people from Amazon shipping or something like that. Anyway, anybody want to buy Canada Post with me? They want 19%, because I don't think you inherit the union. You say, listen, you're all laid off. I just realized the work's not here. Bye. Anyway, 19% wage increase over 4 years, 10 paid medical leave days on top of 7 personal days. So that's an extra 2.5 weeks, right? 14 days plus 3 of time off. And when I worked in public sector, when I worked in children's mental health, a lot of people would keep track of their sick days to make sure they got all of their sick days taken off, because if you didn't, you were leaving money on the table. And I was like, that's a weird way to look at it, because I had sick days in the bank, and I mean, we had an agreement where you could bank a certain amount of sick days, but after that you can't bank. And so they were saying that the only way to make sure you maximize your money is to take all of your sick days yearly. And so people will oftentimes feel incentivized to take all of those 17 days, all 10 mental health days, or paid medical leave days, and 7 personal days, right? And you don't, sometimes they tried to ask for a doctor's note, and people would get very upset. And then it would be like 3 days of tension, right? Management tension and other tension, and then everything would go away and it would be resolved somehow. Fertility treatment benefits they want. Gender affirming care benefit. No, you're fired. Get out. Paid meals for shifts 5 hours or more. Here's a lunchbox. Yes, it's a mailbag that we don't need anymore. Fill that with food from home. Paid like meals? Are you kidding me? Limit surveillance for productivity. Stop watching me to make sure that I'm working. 88% wages if injured at work. Vision care benefits. Increased health specialist benefits. Protection against technology. Sorry, man, we can't protect you against a Terminator. That thing's going to get you. No contracting workout. Snow tires for rural mail carriers. Well, that sounds reasonable. Like, that one's okay. That sounds like if their list was, we want snow tires, I'd be like, man, we should probably give them the snow tires. It doesn't matter if we're bankrupt. Like, that's a safety issue, right? Like, you got to take care of your workers. Snow tires, 8-hour routes. Okay. What do they do? 15-hour routes now? Like, what's the level of the routes? Benefits for temporary employees. Nope. Eliminate separate sort for delivery. These demands are not all. A QP worker told us they're upset that QP is trying to satisfy everyone and not the more senior workers. So yeah, there's all sorts of crazy stuff that the union is demanding. And I mean, the union is crazy. And I don't think that they ever really represent the workers. A lot of the times I worked unions. I didn't work at a union, but I worked in a place that had a union, and it was a social service place, children's mental health place. I was a union steward there, and the worker for the union, the guy who came to help us negotiate, he would be in the boat of like maximize everything and pushing for all of this stuff, right? All of these crazy paid meals and all this stuff. And I always thought, like, this is too much. Like, we don't need to do this. This is about fairness and about wages, really. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, but you're not thinking in enough criteria. We can squeeze more blood from this stone with benefits and, non-monetary concessions. And I was like, oh man, this is a whole different ball game. And I mean, like, in some parts you're right, but here's another example of this is QP. No, this is Unifor, and she's demanding. She's political, right? And they've all become political, and I think that they've run their course. I don't think we need unions anymore. They do more harm than good. So here's Unifor demanding that the government chased down people who offshore their businesses. So are you going to start with Mark Carney or anyway, here we go. Brookfield, right?
Asking the government to consider legislative amendments to include heavier fines imposed on firms that shift production, the ability to seize assets of companies, as well as restricting imports from corporations and companies that offshore Canadian investment and jobs. This may sound heavy-handed. That's because it is. And that's because this is the fight of our lives. We must take a stand now, as the bleed has already begun. Fair trade is a two-way street, and companies that operate in Canada cannot for a second believe they can act with impunity for following orders issued by the President of the United States. If they act against the economic interests of this country, they must also face punishment. Along with my letter to the Prime Minister and his cabinet, we've shared a comprehensive legal opinion that outlines various options. We look forward to further discussions with the federal government on this matter.
Stay in your lane, worry about your workers, and stop trying to influence politics, in my opinion, right? I think. And I think that the unions are being used and are not honest either. So it's not even that the union is bringing forward honest criticisms from their members, and the unions aren't bringing forward things to try and protect their members. The unions are bringing forward liberal talking points or political talking points to help their political masters. Oftentimes, those union jobs are inhabited by NDP or Liberal MPs who are between elections, so on and so forth. They're plum jobs to keep them paid and in the club, essentially, right? Same with universities, same thing. And so I don't think we should utilize them because they're not what they were intended to be. And I don't know if they ever were, but at this point in time, I can clearly recognize they're not what we intended them to be. Man, I wanted to get to the end of the Golden Dome stuff before cutting off the stream. So we'll hurry up. Blacklocks reporter says, Diplomat Canada Holy See deletes social media posts that included a Hitler joke, mockery of Pope's funeral, and description of conservative voters as losers and bigots. Weird, right? Better not fire that guy. It's weird. Peter Menzies says the ties that bind media and the Liberal Party grow even tighter. I think this is a communication to Mockingbird Media to move to blogs and other things. There's no use in facilitating a talent or fostering a talent on mainstream media anymore. You might as well just go build your audience and have a blog or a YouTube show or something like that. And we're starting to see independents come out, and not to be skeptical of them, but have you seen what Harrison Faulkner's up to? I mean, skeptical doesn't start to begin to describe it. So be skeptical, right? Like anybody telling you the truth, be skeptical of them. I encourage you to correct me if I get things wrong. Look into the stories that I'm telling you, because I can only give you really a surface level of understanding of what's going on. If anybody tells you that they know what happened and that you should listen to them and that their outline of things is the only outline of things and they're right and you should act on that, you're being played. So please check, please look, please do more research, look into the stories that you're interested in, and correct me if I get them wrong. But it's one of those things where I don't trust most influencers because they seem dishonest, and it seems like they're trying to do something that is at the behest of somebody else because they don't love the content. You can tell. Like you can tell when somebody doesn't love it. I thought Harrison liked it though. I thought he really enjoyed it. Anyway, regardless, this is the whole article at the Hub. The Hub, I think, is like they blocked me. Like, why would you block me? Am I a jerk? I mean, I'm kind of a jerk, I guess. I'm a jerk, I swear. On Twitter, I swear. But I'm not a jerk when I'm trying to interact with people and get to the bottom of things. And when I ask uncomfortable questions and they block me, I'm like, oh man, well, that's a red flag, right? Like, so, but it's interesting that they're talking about how the need for independence because of the influence in the mainstream media. I think that we're just going to see the independence satisfy some checkboxes so the government can fund the independents directly and have influence in that way. And I think they already do things like guys like Brittle Star. There are a couple of Dean Blundell, things like that. I think they absolutely already do it, and they're expanding their assets in that area. Darshan Maharaja. In fact, just to give you a little bit more, when I started, there wasn't anybody else in the space, really. There were a couple of podcasts that were really crappy, and I desperately tried to listen to them because I was like, I'd like Canadian content that kind of lambastes our idiot government, and nobody did it. And I was like, well, I guess I'll do it. And so now there's a ton of them. And again, if they're dead behind the eyes, they don't like the content. They're doing it because they're paid, and you can damn well tell because the stories are shit. And the stories are shit because they do what they're told, right? And so like I'm out here hugging and chalking, right? And they're dead talking about, I don't know, how nice Mark Carney's teeth are. And it's like, come on, guys, this is not what anybody wants to listen to, for crying out loud. Darshan Maharaja says, I was expecting a repeat of the mayhem in summer job markets this year as well, and it looks like I will be proved right. Interesting nugget in this report, youth population is up by 3.7% compared to last year. Mass immigration issue will heat up again. It hasn't ever cooled down. We've been lied to, and it hasn't ever cooled down. Carney's saying that he's going to increase it to 5% of the population, which is 2 million people. So we're looking at a massive increase this year. And I mean, this year, what, 25, 26? Maybe. I haven't seen the budget, so I don't know. Anyway, somebody was saying, Krusty, somebody or other. Oh man, they're on my feed a lot. Crusty Heart One is talking about this and talking about the Chinese balloons and NORAD failing on the Chinese balloons. So we got to talk about the Golden Dome, and then we'll cut off the feed. And Robbie says, President Trump and Secretary of Defense Hegseth announced that the U.S. will soon begin construction of a Golden Dome missile defense system they say will be next generation game changer protecting the American people. The cost of the project is forecast to be $175 billion, billion with a B. And I think it's a complete waste of money. NORAD has been fine, except for that unfortunate Chinese balloon situation. But when I examine the Chinese balloon situation, I think to myself, and I thought then too, that this looks sanctioned, just like the drones. Remember when everybody was like medium losing their minds about the drones, and Biden's administration was putting out announcements, but it was all kind of bullshit. I think the Chinese balloons sanctioned, or somehow the governments were aware and nobody was really worried about it because they didn't seem worried about it, right? And so, and not that that's ironclad or anything like that, but it seems like I've never experienced a missile attack ever in my life. NORAD in that respect seems to be working. I don't understand the justification for this spend, $175 billion of whatever to protect the United States with this Golden Dome missile protection system. It all seems very, very Cold War-ish to me. Here's Trump talking about this in the first minute. He mentions Canada. I think he does. I think it's in the first minute. He definitely mentions Canada, but it might be in the first 4 minutes. I listen to things at 2 times the speed, and sometimes my gauge is off. Here we go.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here in the Oval Office, one of the great places of the world, as we make a historic announcement about the Golden Dome Missile Defense Shield. That's something we want, and Ronald Reagan wanted it many years ago, but they didn't have the technology. But it's something we're going to have. We're going to have it at the highest level. I want to thank Secretary Hegseth, who's been fantastic, and Secretary Rubio, and Space Force Vice Chief of Space Operations, General Mike Gutlein. I also want to recognize Senators Dan Sullivan, Kevin Cramer, and Jim Banks, fantastic senators, great talents, great political foreign missile attack.
Sorry.
And that's what we're doing. Today I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years.
Does that make you feel safe? I don't know, man. The whole thing is it's weird. I think it's a little weird. All of a sudden, so have you heard the Batman theory, right? Like the reason the Joker showed up. The reason Catwoman and the Penguin and all of these other people exist is because Batman's there, right? Like without Batman, these criminals wouldn't be super criminals. They'd just be regular Joes, but you put on the mask and like you create the problem. So like now we've got the Golden Dome. No, missile attacks out the wazoo. Like, oh, good thing we just got this thing built. And now we've had 7 missile attacks lockdown time, right? Like I feel like we're being played and they're saying it's for your safety, comrade. We need this missile system for your safety, comrade. I'm color me skeptical. I don't see the need for it. But again, I don't have all the information, but I don't know. I feel like we're being played and we're being played often. And I think we should do our best to stop it, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about Trump's Golden Dome? Are you excited about this? Is this a good thing? And should Canada be involved? Or is this something else? I think it's something else. Anyway, we're going to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we'll carry. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful